Dear students, let's start today an interesting lesson Ranga's Marriage by Masti Venkatesha Iyengar. So, for better understanding, we have divided into five parts. First, talk about the title, then something about the village, then the condition of English in their village, and fourth one, Ranga's homecoming, and the final and the major part is Ranga's marriage. So let's start the first part, that is talk on the title. The narrator says that he has not titled his story as Ranganatha Vivaha, Ranganatha Vijaya, Jagannatha Vijaya, or Girija Kalyana. Because the writer says the lesson, the story is about their Ranga's marriage. So, no fancy title but for Ranga's marriage. It is the reason that the writer has titled his story as Ranga's marriage. Next is a talk about their village. The writer says that the writer says he belonged to the village named Hoshahali, and meanwhile he asks a question from the reader whether they have heard of the place Hoshahali, and then he answers the question, no, perhaps you haven't heard of the place, and it's not your fault. The writer says it's not your fault because this place has no mention in geographical books and even no mention in English books. Mean to say, the writers of English literature haven't mentioned this village. They haven't written anything about this village, nor by Indian people too. The writer says the Indian people have too followed English sahibs and have not mentioned this village anywhere in any of the literary piece. The writer says it's like a flock of sheep. When a sheep falls in a pit, the other sheep too follow and fall in pit. So this is the case, the writer says. English people haven't mentioned, then Indian too. So no mention in geographical books, all missed, and even cartographers has missed the place on the map. So they all walk like a flock of sheep, not mentioning the place anywhere. So the writer keeps on talking about the village. The writer says this is a beautiful village. If Mysore be the Bharatavarsha and Karigadabu is a South Indian fried sweet filled with coconut and sugar. So the writer say if Mysore be the Bharatavarsha and Karigadabu to the festive meal, then village to Mysore is what the feeling is to Karigadabu. So the writer praises his village in this way. The writer takes pride in his village. In next slide too, the writer keeps on talking about the village. He takes an example of a doctor to prove his point. The name of the doctor is Gundabhatta. He says that the doctor has also realized the true worth of his village. Many people asked the doctor, who has visited many places, then doctor proved the writer's point, saying that this village is the most beautiful village because he has visited many places. And if the villagers would ask the doctor, has he ever visited England, then he would deny, saying, I have left that place for some other persons to visit. But for all the places he has visited, he has found that this village is a beautiful one. Next, the writer talks of a few weird qualities of the village. He takes an example of raw mango. The writer says, we have some mango trees in his village, the writer says if he would give a raw mango to eat, then you will find that the mangoes are too sour. The writer takes an example of an incident related with mangoes. He says that once he took raw mangoes and made chutney of the mangoes. All of the family members took that chutney with food, and then the next day they found everyone was suffering from the cough. They went to the doctor, and then the doctor revealed the quality of raw mango to all of us. Next, writer talks of another weird quality of his village. He says that in ever so fine water of the pond there is one creeper, and if anyone goes to has bath there, then he might take two leaves of that creeper back to home, and then there would be no worry of having leaves to serve afternoon meal, because the food in South Indian places, some of South Indian places, is served on leaves. So writer here tells that if anyone would go to take bath, he might bring two of the leaves of that creeper, and that would serve well to serve afternoon meal. And the writer ends the description of his village by asking the readers to come and visit the village. The writer say it's the best way of getting to know of a place is to visit it. So the description about the writer's village ends here. Next starts something about English. The writer takes a step forward and goes on to talk about the condition of English in the village. The writer says a decade ago, English was not so common in their village. No one would find people talking in English. They do not even mix some words of English in their local language. They would talk properly in Kannada, and the first was the accountant of the village who sent his son to Bangalore to study. And the writer says nowadays scene is different. Many of the people are fond talking in English, but the writer here also realizes that this change is for bad one. It is deterioration. It's not a positive or good change that people have shifted from their local language to English. The writer recalls of an incident from Rama Rao's house. The writer says one day he was at Rama Rao's house and he bought a bundle of firewood. Then Rama Rao's son offered to pay. When he asked for the prices of the firewood, then Rama Rao said he had no change and asked the lady to come on the other day to take money. The lady could not understand what is meant by the change. She kept on grumbling all the day that she had been cheated. Even the writer too didn't know what the word change mean. So the author went to Ranga's house to ask what does it mean. So this was all about the condition of English in the village a decade ago. However, the writer accepts the now the scenario is totally different, and English is so commonly used in the village. Next comes Ranga's homecoming. Slowly but surely, the writer is coming to the point of Ranga's marriage. Up to now, he talked about the village, the title, and their condition of English a decade ago. And now the writer is going to talk about about Ranga's homecoming. The writer says when the news of Ranga's homecoming reached, people were rushing, announcing, "Accountant's son has come, accountant's son has come." And they, door to door, they were going and announcing, "Let's go and have a look, let's go and have a look." And a and a great crowd gathered to have a look of Ranga when he first came back after studying in Bangalore. The right people were standing around him, everyone looking and talking that he's not changed. He has same eyes, same hands, everything same, and he is not same. He's not changed. Uh, there came forward a lady and who get closer to Ranga and touched his chest and found Janevara is still there. Means Ranga hasn't forgotten about his religion, and she found that he is same. After that, all were gone. The narrator was still standing there. The narrator stepped ahead and talked with Ranga. The narrator asked about the well being of Ranga. He asked Ranga how he was, and Ranga said Namaskar with folded hands, bowing down, touching the feet. He gave good welcome and he said he was well with my blessings. The writer said the Ranga had assessed my word to him. That was the reason that he said Namaskar with folded hand, bowing down and touching my feet and talking politely. The narrator then finally gave Rangas the blessing, "Get married soon." Next starts the final part, Ranga's marriage, the initial talk. After a day, after Ranga's homecoming, the next day Ranga visits the narrator with some oranges to offer, and they talk a bit. They had some general talk about the things, and after having some general talks, the narrator comes straight to the question. He asked, "When do you plan to get married?" Then the writer was shocked to know what Ranga thought of the marriage. Ranga gave two examples. He said he was not going to get married. He gave two examples. He said that he knew an officer who got married only 6 months ago. He said that the officer was about 30 and he married a girl of 25, and they talked with each other lovingly. And now Ranga says that if I get married with a girl who's too young, then he might talk something in love, and the girl might take his words spoken in anger. Then the things would get spoiled. So Ranga raised his point saying that he's not gonna get married. And next, the narrator asks second question: is there any other reason, or this is the only one? Ranga gives an explanation that one should marry a girl whom a person could admire. And about young girls, Ranga had some views that how one could admire a girl who's too young and has stains on one side of her face of milks and wetness on the other. So he gives such weird explanation of not getting married. However, there was some point behind Ranga's getting married in so young age, because the narrator was planning to uh, get him married in young age. But narrator got distressed listening the explanations from Ranga and his views about marriage, and he also takes some decisions. He makes decision that he must get him married. It was the narrator's decisions. However, Ranga's views about marriage might be different, but the narrator takes a decision that he must get him married soon. So, next starts the phase Ranga's marriage and the narrator's plan to get him married. The narrator thought of a girl. The girl was at Rama Rao's house. She was Rama Rao's niece. She belonged to a big town. Both of her parents died, so she was living at Rama Rao's house. She was a pretty girl of 11. Because she belonged to a big town, she could play veena and harmonium, and she also had a sweet voice to sing. And her name was Ratna. Narrator made up his mind that Ranga must marry Ratna. The narrator has some words with Rama Rao's wife. He says that I have some buttermilk for her, and he asks Rama Rao to send Ratna to him to fetch that buttermilk. Then here the narrator was working on his plan. According to his plan, Ratna visits the narrator on Friday. She goes there to have buttermilk, as the narrator has asked Rama Rao's wife that send Ratna, I will send you buttermilk. When Ratna reaches the narrator's house, both knew each other well, so the narrator asked her to sing him a song, because he knew that Ratna has good voice and she could sing. She took to harmonium. She started playing harmonium as well as started singing. And it was the very moment that the narrator had planned well to ask Ranga to visit him, the same moment. And it was the same time when Ratna started her song and Ranga too visits a narrator's house. While Ranga was on the threshold of his house, he listens to the sweet song Ratna was singing inside. So Ranga thought he must not disturb and should enjoy the song. So he kept standing outside for a while, and through peephole he started watching as to who was the girl who was singing the song. While he started looking through the peephole, and the sunlight from the outside got barred, and the girl got to know someone was standing outside, and she stopped singing. And then Ranga entered the house and Ratna went away from the scene. Both the narrator and Ranga were now there alone. Ranga looked at Ratna time and again, and the narrator noticed it. Then Ranga said, my visit disturbed the song. I must go. However, the narrator knew the inner core of Ranga. He knew that he did not want to go, but simply is pretending. So they talk about Ratna. Ranga asks the narrator, who's the girl? Then the narrator tells his Rama Rao's niece, and finally, the narrator said, things should not matter to both of us, as I'm married and you're not gonna get married. So, what to talk about of girl? Then Ranga asks from the narrator, was the girl married? Then the narrator said, yes, she was married a years ago. Then narrator the read Ranga's face got blank, listening to the point that the girl was married a years ago. Things were all going according to the plan of the narrator. The next morning, the narrator secretly visited Shastri, and the narrator disclosed his plan to Shastri that this and this way he would be bringing Ranga to him, and this would be the course of action that he would be playing. After visiting Shastri, the narrator next meets with Ranga, and he comments that you are not looking normal, and he finds that he points that he's a bit unusual. Then Ranga refuses and says it's my usual self. Then he said, I might be feeling some headache. Then the narrator asked why not to see some doctor. Then Ranga said it's not that kind of headache or that kind of problem that we should visit a doctor. Then the narrator further walked upon his plan and said that I myself had been so confused and stressed while I was in the phase of choosing a girl for me. And he then proposes Ranga to see Shastri because he might answer the reason of your worry and stress. And Ranga here at this moment gave in and he accepted the invitation, and both of them went to Shastri. As things were all well planned, when the narrator and Ranga reached Shastri, Shastri commented instantly, after so long you are visiting here. Then he named the narrator Shama, so we got to know the narrator's name was Shama, and they sat, all of them were set to start talk, and plan up to now was going well. However, there was a bit confusion when Shastri said, Shyama, haven't seen you for a long time, and the narrator was losing his temper, and immediately Shastri brought the things back on track and started following to work on the plan already decided. Shastri talked to Ranga. He said, how are you? And you visit rarely, and after so many days I'm seeing you. Shastri asked narrator, what can I do for him? Then the narrator says, take out your paraphernalia. Our Rangrapa seems to have something on his mind. And he asks, can you tell us what's worrying him? And then he further said, We must test your science of astrology. Can you solve his problem or not? Then Shastri started doing the drama already planned between both of them. Then he started moving his fingers fast and speaking something in hurry, and finally he declared that in a serious tone that it's about a girl, that Ranga is worried. The narrator here says he had been controlling his laughter by now, but when he listened that it was a matter of girl that was worrying Ranga, he burst out in laughter. And at the same moment, the narrator turned to Ranga. It's exactly what he had said. Next, the narrator asks Shastri, who's that girl? He asked, tell us the name of the girl. Shastri thought for a while and came out with an answer that she probably had the name of something found in the ocean. He did not tell the name straightway, but he twisted the things to make some suspense out of it. He said the girl had the name of something found in the ocean. Then they started racking out their brain and making their junctures as to it might be Kamala, then might be Moss, or could be Pearl, or the name of some precious stone. Then finally they had in a single breath announced might be Ratna. Ratna is also a thing, a name of something that is found in ocean. Then the narrator noticed that there was surprise on Ranga's face and some happiness too. And to take fun out of the event, the narrator on the spot said the girl is married. Ratna is married. And to turn Ranga's condition pitiable, they said she might be some other girl. They leave the place. On their way, Ratna and the narrator, on their way, both Ranga and narrator saw that Ratna was standing at the doorstep of Rama Rao's house. Seeing Ratna, the narrator himself alone went in, and he came out with the happy news and said Ranga that the girl is unmarried. Someone on other day told that the girl is married, but now I reconfirmed and found that the girl is unmarried. It is good news. And asked Ranga something about the truth in astrology, in Shastra. Then Ranga accepts the truth that Shastra has real truth in them, far greater than we could imagine. So the narrators afterwards have some final exchange of words with Shastri out of fun, making fun like that you did not work well on the plan, but Shastri said, I worked according to the plan, what I was told, I behaved accordingly, and it was all fun because the things were got settled, and their marriage got finalized, and they finally got married also. And after many years of this success of the plan, Ranga went to the narrator, giving him invitation to visit him. Then the narrator asked, "What is this invitations about?" Then Ranga said, "It is Shama's third birthday." Means both Ranga and Ratna got married, and they had a son named Shama, and on the third birthday they were inviting narrator, and the narrator commented over the name of the son. He said, "What a silly name they had for their kid Shama, who's a very bright kid, and they had named him Shama. However, they named him after the name of narrator, and because they liked narrator, who finally planned out for their marriage." The narrator, when visited their house, they talked about Ratna's pregnancy, because Ratna was once again pregnant for 8 months, and he asked, "Who's taking care of the things at home?" The narrator said, Ranga said, he has a sister who's taking care of all the things these days, because Ratna is again pregnant. And finally, in the end of the lesson, the narrator showed some love for Shama, and here this story, this lesson ends. So if you like the video, please hit like and do comment me in your queries in comment box, and do subscribe to my channel for such videos. Thanks for watching.